Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, Grant McCasland turns in an all-timer of a second season as we shift to postseason mode.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. So visit FanDuel.com today to get started with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. We're talking, well, the opposite of getting started. We're talking a big wrap-up, a big finish, a big regular season finale. On today's episode, Chris, great to be back with you and looking back to Tempe, Arizona, and now the regular season that was. And, of course, we'll spend some time this week on an upcoming episode sort of setting the table for what we got as far as the lay of the land with the Big 12 tournament and truly shifting into postseason mode. But back at it from Tempe with the Sun Devils, Chris. The Red Raiders really poured it on before it was all said and done, stretching their legs there in the second half. You and I asked on the primer episode on Saturday, would this be tricky in Tempe? Because we know what this first round was like, and we know what's possible whenever you're facing a team that's really got nothing to lose while you've got some pressure on you. But that wasn't the case. The answer was clearly no. Texas Tech seemed to be clicking on all cylinders. And eventually, before it was all said and done, man, they just flat out ran away with it.
Yeah, it was tricky, and then it wasn't. This was the same game that Arizona State had played the week before in Salt Lake City versus the University of Utah, and it was a tight game at the half, and Arizona State, I think, led much of that, and then I think Utah ended up winning by 25 or 30. Sound familiar? I just think that they are running out of gas. They exert a lot of energy on offense, which is what makes these games or matchups scary. But they just don't have enough energy or enough rim protection to slow anybody down on the defensive end. Because what's crazy is in this game last night, JT Toppin, I think he went to the locker room with either 4 or 6 points, and he ends up finishing with 25, and he just took over and maybe cemented his candidacy to be Big 12 Player of the Year or maybe first-team All-American. Okay, so screw Big 12 Player of the Year stuff. He may be a first-team All-American. The broom kid at Auburn, the flag kid at Duke. I mean, that's where you're at with this young man. And the 4 assists that he had last night, it was a slow start, but it was on full display. I'm telling you, man, I don't know how I would describe the warm feeling. It's like my my parents making snickerdoodle cookies when I was a kid, and you just had that smell. Because a snickerdoodle is a kind of cookie that you just don't go buy one everywhere. I don't know how you make it, but there's just a subtle nuance to it. But whenever I'd smell that as a kid, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a good day. And it just made you feel good, right? This is the feeling that I have when Christian Anderson steps up, comes off the bench, and inserts himself into a game. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's over here because it's just this X factor, this calming influence, this snickerdoodle feeling that you get about yourself that guy's just awesome. I mean, bombs away at the end of overtime, at the end of halftime. The first half, and then he has the 4-point play in the second half that are just deep shots, and it's just glorious. He just adds a whole different dimension and has created so much more upside with this team and what they're capable of because of look at the bench points. Okay, I think you had 32, they had 0. You want to know why you won this game? JT deserves a lot of credit, but you want to know why you won this game or why you were able to run away from him? Because you've got juice coming off the bench, and they just do not.
Yeah, and that's kind of been a common theme for the most part throughout the year. The cast, or say the names, aside from Christian Anderson, who might have had this bigger day or this bigger week or whatever, have sort of, I guess, ebbed and flowed throughout the year. But there's always been some production there led by Christian Anderson. And Chris, whenever you're going back, at least to me, prior to the season beginning and thinking about, some talking points that would be tied to this team, there was some conversation about depth and what we feel like this team had to offer. And I don't know that it maybe came into view or came to fruition as smoothly as we had hoped or anticipated. Obviously, you had some injury things to deal with and stuff like that, which just about every team does. But eventually you did get there. And I think we'd probably say that about a lot of aspects of this team, that eventually they rounded into kind of the form that we thought when we had some really high expectations. But the depth of the team, I think, was something to get excited about. And we finally have kind of seen now that the regular season is wrapped up, a team that can really rely on that night in and night out, led by a freshman.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because, boy, I still wish you had just a titch more, just because you're not limping to the finish line. But, boy, you need these days of rest. But you've leaned on a lot of guys, like, let's go through last night. I mean, as much as Christian Anderson has given you, because it's some serious juice off the bench. I mean, I guess if you want to draw some similarities to like that 19 team, I don't know where this thing is about to go in the coming weeks. And hopefully it is weeks, plural, that we are playing and hooping and madnessing and all that stuff. But Brandon Francis did that for the 19 team. And this is what Christian Anderson does for this particular team. I mean, you just have a guy that can go for 20 plus coming off the bench. There's just not many teams that have that or can do that. But Darion Williams, I'm thinking, like, see, this is why, these are tricky down the stretch when you ultimately, like, or what are you playing for? How much do we want to, like, go all in here and go for it? Was still a lot to be determined, because he kind of tweaks that ankle, goes to the locker room, only plays 2 minutes in the first half. And you kind of wonder aloud to yourself, okay, this is – but then he comes back and plays, I think it was like 14 or 15 minutes in the second half, and it all seemed okay. Federico, though, didn't play much in the second half at all. He's got a wrap on that knee, which he had the previous game versus Colorado. And I just think you need these days, because as you try to finish these games out and you empty the bench – last night it was Corbin Green and Jack Francis, but they're trying to maintain Leon Horner's, I think, redshirt status potentially. But you don't have the Emily Yalaho wasn't available. There is no Devin Cambridge, as we've mentioned. There's just not those like 9th, 10th pieces that, that you can kind of just finish out these games and let's just get out of harm's way. But you're right. So depth comes in different conversations, but you're right, man. There's just not many. And what Kevin Overton brings you off the bench at times. I mean, he had a huge 3. He had a huge drive to the bucket when he finished up underneath the basket and when his shot clock wound down. And then I think that so many things that Federico does off the bench from a defensive standpoint, or just keeping possessions alive, or just to settle this or settle that, are big. But it fits together oh so nicely.
Yeah, and another game where when Jack Francis gets on the floor, you're a winner. So correlation there, I think so. I consider Walton among the reserves, kind of like as a bonus if you get anything out of him. I know he's a starter technically, but it's him, it's Overton, it's Federico, kind of in a rotating cast of like, all right, I'm going to be the guy that helps Christian Anderson out this time, or I'm going to be the guy that helps him this time. And I would just like to alert them, I know they're daily listeners, you guys can do it all at the same time. And now's the time to do that. Feel free the entire month of March into early April. Let's all do it together, because, man, it's a beautiful picture when that's the case. For Darion Williams, I mean, that's probably what you leave the regular season finale thinking about most, aside from the, wow, this looked really awesome, or this guy was really awesome, or this guy's stats blew me away. At least speaking personally as a Tech fan, I'm thinking about Darion Williams and what his immediate future holds. But I'm also thinking to myself, at this point in his career, Chris, I guess I'm going to kind of put him in that category of the Patrick Mahomes, Luka Doncic, always look injured, always look hobbled, never look smooth, yet always ready to roll category. Does that make sense? There are these guys out there that I'm always like, we're going to have to amputate that leg by halftime. And then all of a sudden, nope, just played the rest of the game and did spectacular things. I hate to compare him to two of the best players in their respective sports on the planet, but it's more so that kind of like just there's always
old man body. It's that old man body.
Get through it, like he gets through it, but leaves you a little worried here or there, I guess.
No, well, and go back to a year ago. Remember when you go to Kansas City and you play BYU and you beat them, but he went down and got hurt, and then he didn't play the next day versus Houston, and you got worked. And then he probably wasn't 100% when you played NC State. And that was kind of, and we'll get into those conversations about what this week brings as far as the Big 12 tournament. And now that we have a bracket and scenarios and all those things. But I think you came out of that game in Tempe unscathed. I think that Grant also was very quick to point out.
First, today's episode brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades with Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. And their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from more than 400 top brands, you're going to find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn to take your business to the next level. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM. That's supplyhouse.com/TM, and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with only a few clicks. Plus, use our promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's SH5 at supplyhouse.com. Today's episode brought to you by Wayfair, and there's nothing after the holiday hustle to get you back into a routine like decluttering, refreshing, and giving your space a little TLC. Whether you're tidying up, cleaning out, or just want to give your place a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. And their huge selection makes it easy to find that specific item to fit your style. Plus the free and no-hassle delivery, even for the bigger stuff. Wayfair's site is so easy to navigate. You're going to find everything you need in no time. And there's something for every style, every home, no matter the space, no matter the budget. So give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
I think that Grant also was very quick to point out we definitely need like the extra days of rest. Like they earned it, and so they should embrace it and whatnot. But you don't play again till Thursday night. But you're just kind of ground down a little bit, and you need the refresher. By the way, I get asked this all the time, like, hey, man, if I'm ever going to go see the Red Raiders on the road, where go to Tempe. Unbelievable. I could see why nobody shows up to those games for basketball and for football. My gosh, it's a great area. I mean, and it's just the weather should be illegal. At least this time of year. I'm guessing it's rather unbecoming, like in the summer months, to be a little bit warm. But
shout out to the great Terry Allen, Lubbock native, pride and joy, who once said there ought to be a law against sunny Southern California.
Yeah,
for Arizona, I guess.
Yes, but I mean
that arena really looked like a dump on television, though. I got to say, it looked like one of the worst I've seen at this level.
It's old and outdated. It holds 14,000. They haven't done anything to it. I think they had a lot of money raised to renovate it. I don't know how many periods of years ago, not too far long ago. And I think they chose to spend a lot of that money on a hockey situation and an ice plant. And
you mentioned that too.
Yeah, and it's a tough job. You look at Arizona State basketball, and they just don't take it super seriously.
It's kind of funny because James Harden is making some noise last couple of weeks about being willing to fund his NIL collective, whatever, for Arizona State. And I'm sort of thinking, like what you just said, does this program just kind of mirror James Harden, which is not a compliment from a basketball perspective? Like, yeah, let's chuck it up. we'll shoot. Our efficiency will be terrible. We might have a 50-point score, and we'll go 500 as a team.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess that's fair. That's fair. I mean, but Bobby Hurley's the second winningest coach all time in Arizona State history. He's been there 10 years. He's been in the tournament 3 times. Is that should tell you, Herb Sendek, Bill Frieder, that there was. I mean, and if you're real curious, go watch the. You can Google this. There was a documentary on Steven Headache Smith, was his name, from Dallas Spruce High School. In the mid 90s, because they started recruiting the Metroplex, and I played against a lot of these guys in high school. Steven Smith at Spruce, Mario Bennett, that was from maybe one of the Denton schools or whatever. And that's when Arizona State was pretty relevant or somewhat relevant. They were going to some tournaments. Point shaving. You're 2 hours from Vegas out there in Tempe now, and they get caught up into doing some things. That bottom line is, For you football fanatics out there, the Red Raiders will be out there, and I guess it's October. Go. You will love it. The scene, the area, it's incredible. I couldn't have gone to school there. I would have failed out in a semester. Way too many distractions. And everybody is pretty. Everybody is
that's
pretty.
kind of the era before yoga pants, even, I was going to say. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So, but yeah, I just and ton of Tech fans that were there. A lot of Raider power chants in the old Desert.
Yeah, that was coming
Arena.
through the TV broadcast.
There you go.
I'm a little surprised by it. All right, this Tempe love's making me sick. What a disgusting place. Thank God I'm in West Texas. Chris, as for the ball game and sort of the season overall, just kind of extrapolating here, you look at the ball game and you see something that kind of indicates to you Toppin Anderson show. As far as March 8th was concerned, it's kind of like these are the headliners. And coming into the year, I have on the screen there, Batman with an S, Robin with an S, because I feel like these are now plural bills that people are fitting. Coming into the year, I'm kind of thinking this is a Darion Williams, Chance McMillan team. I think in that order. Now, intangibly speaking, leadership speaking may very much still be that. But as the year has kind of gone on, there's like these rotating sets of Batmen and Robins, however you say that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like if you were actually Robin one night, well, you may be Batman the next night. It's not even like you're relegated to that single category. And I don't know what the best picture actually looks like. Is it more of a Toppin McMillan conversation inside out? Is it Toppin Williams? Is it Williams Anderson? Does that make sense? I just never would have projected like this. Like, well, you do have a Batman and then you do have the sidekick, but there's like a collection of 4 or 5 guys that can fill either of those shoes on any given night. Kind of crazy to think about.
Well, you start mentioning those combos. I guess my thought would be like, yes, like all the combos right. are great. I mean,
you take the first 10 minutes, you take the second 10 minutes, you take the third 10.
Yeah, this is a nucleus that has been built around Chance and Darion, and I do think I would say this is Chance's team. He's got the
really.
He's the leader, the quiet like. Lead by example, and then Darion is there as well. But I would say it maybe tilts a bit more. I just go off of like all the things that Grant has said. He goes out of his way to point to Chance McMillan says, "Coach me harder." Chance McMillan is encouraging when he couldn't play. We are tough because of Chance McMillan. Chance McMillan's playing through this and all those things. And so I would slightly tilt there, but. The fun part about what you're seeing is I think on some days, like Elijah Hawkins has a big time. I mean, a veteran point guard this time of year is just because I think he is crucial. In fact, when he got in early foul trouble, even last night, I was like, I think that when he's on the floor, because Calvin, look at what you did last night from a turnover standpoint. You turn it over. You played 40 minutes, and you turn it over 2 times.
Thought it was a typo.
And it's just that he and Christian deserve most credit there. But I think when Elijah was in foul trouble and kind of didn't get to play as much as in a normal situation, let's see. Let me look at it. He played only 21 minutes, but Chance McMillan kind of facilitated, and it was the 6 assists by Chance McMillan because we hadn't seen him as the facilitator and putting him in the ball screens and doing different things as the guy that was kind of trying to get JT shots and whatnot. But I just think Elijah, this time of year, this is why he's here, man. Like, he's here to manage and calm and to give you what is needed at various times. But he sets a lot of these guys up. He's done it all year. I mean, he's approaching 200 assists, for goodness sakes, on the season, which is just insanity.
Yeah.
And
nothing new for him, by the way.
Yeah, and I don't think, like, JT's he's just a dude. He's not like what I would say is like a leader. You've got to get him touches. He needs to be involved. He's fairly he's fairly quiet. He's just not really outspoken, but neither is Chance. And really, Elijah's not. That's what's fun. I don't really know where your emotional leadership comes from, but it's not like you really need that rah-rah guy. Maybe that just comes from Grant, because they squeeze everything they can out of these guys. Kerwin is like a robot. He's just like, the three-point shooter, robot engage. And it's like, he just goes on because that last night was his 8th game of the season with three or more 3-point makes. And don't underestimate how valuable that person is this time of year.
Oh yeah. Before we get out of here too, got to make one mention of, the guy in charge. You just mentioned him, Grant McCasland. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. And when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. And FanDuel's live betting feature electrifies every moment. Whether backing your team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch shot, you're never going to miss your chance to get in on the action. Plus, the app, easy to use. And when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. And make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Got to make one mention of, the guy in charge. You just mentioned him, Grant McCasland. I think this is correct. 2 seasons, 20-plus wins. First 2 seasons, the only man to do that, Robert Montgomery Knight, in the history of Texas Tech basketball as far as a head coach is concerned. So pretty salty stuff there. And this was not a situation, I don't feel like, I'll have to kind of jog my memory, but this was not a situation where he takes over and we're like, boom, stocked cupboard. Barry Switzer's got the keys, go win with Jimmy's boys. I know there were like some players that were still on the roster, but there had been some tumult, and I'm not sure it was a roster that was a team. It was just kind of a collection that was a roster. So he hits the ground running, and to me makes it even more impressive. Bob Knight was a turnaround job. Like, he gets here and boom, you're playing interesting basketball. And even though you'd had an interesting run prior to McCasland's arrival, recent run, there was a whirlwind to kind of calm down, right, and sort of rebuild. And I'm blown away to continue with the win puns in West Texas that he's been able to do it.
It was this was a quick one, but this was a slight rebuild here, and you had the portal available to you, so you can do these things a bit quicker. But I mean, we talked about this 2 years ago. I'm going to Kansas City. I don't know what the hell's happening. Your coach is suspended. They ultimately, while you're there, go, okay, he's stepping down, and we're going our separate ways. And you're like, oh, I mean, all this that we built, and you'd reach the title game, and then Chris leaves, and then now Mark has been dismissed, whether forced or willing or whatever. I mean, just the whole deal. And then he quickly has gone 26-12 in the Big 12. 26-12 in league games, folks. He finished 4th, then he finished 2nd in the one of the toughest leagues in the country, if not the toughest. And it's just been super, super impressive to watch. And now, we haven't talked about this either, but now his coaching tree is starting to bloom a bit. Dave Smart to Pacific, now Matt Breyer going to SFA. So this, and if you're JT and you are a first team All-American or whatever you get awarded with, you can say, I can go there and I can get developed. They're gonna get me to my peak of who I can ultimately be. If you're a young coach, like, you want to attach yourself to this deal because you're starting to see it. This back-to-back years that guys go get D1 jobs, be working under and for Grant. And I just think they're all compliments. But I just love it's a fun little time right now, and I don't see it ending. And while you're going to feel potentially vulnerable here in a month, whenever guys make decisions, you're like, okay, can we keep this guy? Who's coming back? They'll go find them. They will go find them, and they will be able to compensate them. And they will. We
talked like 3 days ago. The hit rate with their scouting department incredibly high so far, and a lot of that without proof of performance. I mean, the first go around, hey, I'm Grant McCasland. I have not coached a game here yet. Would you like to play for me? Second go around, hey, I'm Grant McCasland. Pretty exciting first year. Got bounced in the first round. Would you like to come play for me? And now we're talking, a month, 3 consecutive weeks, whatever, top 10 basketball team, 2 seed, 3 seed. I mean, you know what the resume is going to look like after this one, and God only knows what the tournament could actually hold. So I'm just trying to pace myself because I could be overflowing with some excitement regarding the future, Chris, but I'm going to pace myself and just enjoy the present because it's pretty enjoyable so far. So we are at the precipice of one of the most enjoyable times of the year, sports-wise, particularly if you got a dog in the fight. And we got one, and it's barking loud. Row, 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 row. Thankfully, biting as well. Chris, plenty to get to this week, and we'll be back on the other side to begin to set the table for what's coming up. Big 12 tournament, NCAA tournament. Very likely have some, good news to discuss from a Big 12 accolade standpoint as well. Some pretty prominent names that could be on prominent lists or receiving prominent honors. So hopefully when we reconvene, we will be chopping that up also. And can't wait, man. This is one of those special times of year. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to it. Appreciate your time as always. And we'll see you for the next one.
Hey, man, guns up. But yeah, man, second in this league. I know it's not first. And if you ain't first, you're last. I get it. However, pretty damn salty, man. 15-5 in 20-game season is legit. Most wins in this league in school's history. And it may never – you're going to go back to 18 games, so it's going to be harder to do that in only 18. But, man, pretty darn fun. And that 8-2 road record, inject it straight into my veins, man. I love that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Just a lot of fun all the way around as far as this regular season goes. But that's only a portion of this enjoyable basketball pie that we're here for. Now the biggest slice. The big dance. We'll get to the business.
And how did you lose in Fort Worth? I looked at that. They by the way, the Horned Frog, we are your Super Bowl. I mean, I think it's pretty clear you hadn't really done much since. And you go to Colorado and get worked.
I think Jamie Dixon's calling UCLA. You still interested? Or whoever it was that one time. Yeah. I don't know. Congratulations to them on a great win. I don't know why we're relitigating that, but sure they'll have a plaque for it somewhere in the trophy case. All right. Appreciate you guys for being out there. As always, we're back on the other side to kick off the week, talking a lot of hoops and, of course, getting nearer and dearer to not only Big 12 tournament time, NCAA tournament time, spring football time also is just about upon us. So we'll get into that realm as well this week. Whole lot going on, so make sure you're subscribed so you miss nothing on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks to the Everydayers for always being out there, and a shout out to the Matador Mob. Hit the show notes, find a link to a free 14-day trial. That is your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. And I have got to give a quick shout out here, Chris, because this has been something that's been on my mind for a period of time, and I believe at this time this is correct. Number one ranking Matador Mobster in the clubhouse with over 900 messages now exchanged. Our man Jason. Shout out to Jason. I was running down the list the other day just to see who's really cooking it up inside the mob. 900 times we've gone back and forth with our guy Jason. So it's out there for you if you want it. Hit the show notes and find the link. And shout out to our friend Brent as well, who's cooking at, I think, a steady 10 or 11. He's more of an observer. That's fine. There's a couple of Brents in there, too. So if you're not the one, I'm not talking about you, of course. But thank you to Jason for being out there. And the entire Matador Mob. And by the way, I've also got to give a shout out to Jackson and our guys on the Red Raider bass fishing team. I'm sorry I'm a little tardy on that. I think that was on my list Friday, but it was Friday. What do you expect? I was a little distracted. Reel them in, boys. Reel them in. I don't have a lot of bass fishing chatter, but I'm going to work on it this week. And so then maybe I can.
I mean, we've all gone bass fishing, and remember, we caught them, and it was like this big. Remember, it's just like
of course, it extends over time.
That's how it works.
Shout out to Bill Dance and anybody who's dropping a hook in the water anywhere, and shout out to Jackson and the Texas Tech bass fishing team. Guns up, hooks down, lips ripped, whatever else you say. I don't know. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.